As we stand here approximately 13 hours, I believe, before the end of my term as emergency manager, I reflect with a sense of bittersweet memory at this time. It is time for the city to emerge from bankruptcy, and we've spoken about that many times before. But the fondness that I've developed in my heart for the city, for the citizens, for the two gentlemen behind me, both the governor and the mayor, as well as the city council, will remain. I want to thank all of the residents and citizens of the city, the elected officials in the city, the elected officials in the state, both in the legislature and the executive branch, the judges, the mediators, the counterparties, the restructuring professionals, and everyone that has helped us get to this point. We are thankful that at this point the city will emerge later today, by the time I go to bed, from bankruptcy. We will exit. And we look forward truly to a better time for the city going forward. I want to thank all of you for giving us this opportunity to finally bring this matter to a close. But more importantly, it's time for me now to step back and return the city to the regular order. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kevin. This is a historic day, and it's a great honor to be here with the mayor and Kevin Orr. So I appreciate everyone coming together. Yesterday, I was proud to sign a letter that ended the financial receivership of the city of Detroit. We'll end the term of the emergency manager with the completion of the bankruptcy, and it's all subject to the finalization of the bankruptcy process, which should be happening later today. The paperwork's all in the pipeline and the process and is being filed. So the bankruptcy will wrap up today, Kevin will wrap up today, and the financial emergency in the city of Detroit will be defined as wrapping up today. So it's truly historic. And it really happened because of great partnerships, of people working together, and that's the biggest message of all of this. This has been an extremely difficult and hard process for many people, but people work together, and I think we've got an outstanding outcome, far better than people's expectation. And now, most importantly, we have the city poised for a new chapter that's about the growth of the city of Detroit after decades of decline, and that's extremely exciting. So I'm very proud of those achievements. In particular, I do want to say thank you to Kevin Orr. Kevin, thank you for your outstanding service. Since March of last year, you've been a person dedicated to the city and the state, and it's outstanding. And I can tell you, as you return home, and we're happy to have you returning home for the holidays, you will always be considered an honorary Michigander. Thank you. And we always want you back. So thank you for your outstanding service. This is a great case of people working together to make this happen, though, and I want to thank the mayor and the city council for their outstanding partnership in pulling this together in terms of finalizing this process, of getting us through. If you think about it, the debt load of the city of Detroit has been reduced dramatically by $7 billion. There's now over $1 billion that will be set aside to reinvest in better services and better things going on for the city of Detroit going forward. If you look at the time frame over the last year or so, we've seen a major improvement in city services, which was long overdue. And it's exciting to see response times on public safety improving, blight removal taking place, street lights going up, trash removal taking place, and to say this is only the beginning of a stronger foundation that I'm confident the mayor and city council are only going to make things better and better. And I really look forward to continuing the partnership we already have, but having them in more full control of the city without the financial manager being here, and looking forward to a very bright future where we're all focused on growing the city of Detroit, a tremendously exciting outcome. So it's great. What I'd like to do is now introduce the mayor, and as part of that, though, just to show you how partnerships can work over the last year or so, I have something in my pocket to present to the mayor. One of the projects we worked on together over the last year was the Detroit Detention Center out at Mound Road, and it was a partnership between the Michigan Department of Corrections and the Detroit Police Department. It was a situation where we thought we could do a better job of helping hold prisoners and work together on, so we set an initial budget for that process. And then both Department of Corrections from the state and the Detroit Police Department said they can do better, and they worked harder to be more efficient. So in fact, after the first year, I have a check for $1.2 million to give to the mayor to say this is essentially the fact that we work together in partnership to save the city money, and these are additional resources for the city of Detroit. So that's the kind of results we're showing in this world compared to the old world where you'd used to hear about deficits, new problems, and new issues. Now we're showing how we can work together, be more efficient, show better results, and I'm really excited about partnering, again, with the mayor and the city council on watching that path only get better and better. Thanks for your good work, Mayor.
Thank you, Governor. Well, this is good. An unexpected $1.2 million. I hope you'll come back next week, Governor. This is a good day for the city. It was a necessary day that we can start to put conversation about bankruptcy and emergency managers behind us and go back to the very challenging job of making the city of Detroit work. I do want to thank Judge Rhodes and the mediators for what was a record process in moving through the bankruptcy proceedings and allowing us to get back to business. I want to thank the employees of the city of Detroit who took a number of sacrifices in this process but have really done a fine job this year in delivering services to the residents. I know the people of the city have seen the service improvement that's coming from our folks. To the foundations and the corporations who contributed to the grand bargain, this wouldn't have been possible without them. To the governor and the legislature who supported us in that process at a time when it wasn't obvious that it was the politically good thing to do, although I think it's worked out fine. But we appreciate your leadership, and to Dennis Muchmore and Rich Baird on the governor's staff who have had their share of phone calls from me unhappy about one thing or another. They've been great partners in working out so many things. Gabe Leland is here on behalf of the City Council, but I also want to thank my partners on the Detroit City Council. One of the things that's gone unnoticed is if you look at this last year, all the drama has been on the bankruptcy side. It hasn't been with the city officials in the city of Detroit. There's been a level of professionalism, I think, that's been very valuable. And finally, thank you to Kevin Orr, former emergency manager. That has a nice ring to it. And Kevin, when you talked about looking back on your time with fondness, I think about Winston Churchill, who said happiness is more often remembered than experienced, and I think you're already remembering the happiness more than you actually experienced it. But we wish you nothing but the best of luck. I know you'll be successful in whatever you do. As far as from a practical standpoint, it'll be great not to have to go through the legal proceedings that's been consuming so much of our time. But the reality is tomorrow's not any different than today. We're glad to be out of the bankruptcy process, but if I look at what I'm dealing with in the last 24 hours, this came from a meeting in which we're evaluating purchasing body cameras for Detroit police officers to try to make sure we have a full transparency in our interaction between the police and the public. Then I went to a meeting on legislation that the governor is supporting us on right now to try to head off the foreclosures in 2015 by giving the treasurer much more flexibility in structuring payment arrearages. Then I went to another meeting on how we're going to speed up the demolition of houses that have burned in the city, and then a snow removal readiness meeting because that season's back on us. We still have enormous challenges delivering services in the city every day, but at least now we are no longer a city that's in bankruptcy. So we're going to start fresh tomorrow, and we're going to do the best we can to deliver the kind of services the people of the city deserve. And in partnership will be the Detroit City Council, and I'm pleased that one of my partners, Gabe Leland, is here to speak on behalf of the council. Gabe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to the governor, to the emergency manager. I'm not the biggest proponent of bankruptcy, but at the end of the day, from a budget perspective, we're better off today than we were 18 months ago, and I'm very excited to work with my council colleagues and the mayor to prove that we're ready for the fight, and we are. Many pieces of legislation have made it through the council table where we've proven that fact that we can work together, whether it's the Great Lakes Water Authority, if it was bringing in 2 new contractors to haul trash. We knew that we were up against some tough issues, and we're working hard, and we're going to work hard now and into the future. My goal is to do 3 balanced budgets every single year consecutively, so that we relinquish the ties to the Financial Review Commission, and that's something that I'm excited about. We are all about getting the business done for the city of Detroit. Services are up, and we're going to do everything in our power to work with the mayor to make that happen. And so I'm very excited about today. Santa Claus brought something an early gift to the city of Detroit, but it couldn't be more timely. But we're up for the fight, and I'm looking forward to increasing services, which is what this really is all about. Thank you very much.
All right, and I guess with that, we'll take any questions.
Wait, excuse me 1 second, sorry. I know everybody's very anxious, but because we're live streaming at home, if everybody could raise their questions. John from the mayor's team and myself over here will get to you with the microphone. If you could just quickly say your name and your outlet, and then we'll go from there. And we can start right here, and then Rod will come to you, and then I'll let John over there.
Mr. Orr,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
look genuinely emotional right now. You have a visible lump in your throat and you're misty-eyed. Tell us how you feel today.
I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity and very fortunate for the outcome on behalf of the city. But, you know, frankly, since the confirmation hearing and the trial, we've been working our way to this point. So this is sort of a culmination of what we're already experiencing. As the mayor mentioned, the reality is the city is moving forward, and that gives me a great deal of pride and satisfaction, but it truly is bittersweet. I've grown a great deal of fondness for the city. I'm going to miss the barbecue over at Rub's or Slows or any place else I go, so it's a little different. Thank you.
Okay, we have a question here from Jim Kurtzner from Channel 7.
Mr. Mayor, you've spoken of this before, but as you now take over and look ahead, you've discussed in the past how it's still a rough road. What are your thoughts now today?
Yeah, you know, I mean, this is what I signed up for. And so how do you deliver service in a city where the unemployment rate is double the state average? And we've got to rebuild a water system and a bus system and a computer system and a financial system. It's all going to be a challenge, but I think we've put together an excellent team. And I think the plan of adjustment gives us the tools to have a chance to succeed. We really couldn't ask for more than that.
Yes, Rod Maloney, Channel 4 Detroit. Mayor, I'll start with you just briefly. How many ambulances and police cars will the 1.2 million buy first? But then second, Governor, I want to ask you about your reaction to all of this. And is the city where you hoped it would be when you decided to pull the trigger on bankruptcy?
1.2 million is a really important thing. When you look at how tight the budget is, $1.2 million that we weren't counting on is very important, but I have to consult with my partners on city council before I tell you how we spend it, and I'll turn it over to the governor.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate your question, Rod, because if you stop and look at it, I'm very proud of where we are coming out of this process. This was an extremely difficult decision to begin with. There was a lot of hard work, and it's because of partnership. Again, the judge, the mediators, the foundation community. The biggest message is how people can work together in Michigan, in the country, to support Detroit on being successful. There's been a significant improvement in services from a year ago, from the 18 months ago period, which is outstanding. But I also acknowledge what the mayor is saying, and that's why I want to continue to be a good partner. Detroit is a far better place today than it was 18 months ago in terms of services, debt load, everything else, but there's much work to be done, particularly in the neighborhoods. It's great. Midtown and downtown has so many wonderful projects already going on, and I'm really committed to being a good supportive partner to say how can we make sure the neighborhoods are coming back, jobs are being created, other good things are going to continue to happen in the city of Detroit. But that's my main point, as I mentioned earlier, isn't it great now we're all discussing how we can grow Detroit?
Corey Williams with the Associated Press. This is for either one of you guys. Can you walk us through the process of what's going to happen over the next 13 hours for this to officially happen? Who has to sign off on it?
Let me try to clarify one thing. There's been some discussion in the news media about it. The plan will go effective today. That means the entire day. So by 12 midnight, the city will emerge after that time from bankruptcy. What will happen is there are a number of documents, as you probably understand, that have to be executed and addressed. There are a number of processes, wire transfers, trust agreements, disbursements, things along those lines, trust agents that have to do that process. And that may take more than just today. It may take tomorrow. That's the mechanics. And then, because the city declares the effective date, which we've declared to be today, there will be a notice of filing in the court of the effective date. But it's just at this point, since the judge entered the confirmation order, I believe, on November 11th, the city has been going through the mechanics to get to the effective date. The effective date is just a bright line by which the city, tomorrow morning, has emerged from bankruptcy, and then there'll be a notice just to notify you of that fact. But the reality is the bankruptcy of the city will be over. There may be some other administrative things the court may have to handle, but the city will have emerged from bankruptcy.
So again, that's today?
That is today.
Okay.
Yes.
And the effective date is tomorrow.
No. The effective date is December 10th, 2014, until 12 midnight tonight.
And your resignation is effective today as well.
So that's why we want you to ask Kevin all these questions now.
12:01 a.m. tomorrow morning, the city will be out of bankruptcy. I will no longer be the emergency manager. I will be unemployed.
But, Mr. Orr, Chris Christoph,
Yeah, Chris.
Bloomberg News, are you going to write a book about your experience here?
I don't know. I have no present plans to write a book.
The 1.2 million, Governor, that is to compensate the city for the use of that?
Actually, it's a rebate, in effect, that basically we had an arrangement to help pay for the Detroit Detention Center that was based on an initial year budget to say it was going to cost that much, that both come from the Department of Corrections and Detroit Police Department. And the best part is both groups were more efficient, so it didn't cost near as much money, so here's the money back after basically we didn't need it in the first year budget. We ran it more efficiently, and that was because of good partnership.
Karen Samuels, Tell Us Detroit. Mr. Orr, a question you hopefully can answer before 12:01. This is a practical question on the Financial Review Commission. You in your letter said you had implemented a new 2-year budget. Would that commission have any authority to make any changes to the budget you've adopted?
The budget is required by Public Act 436, and that's what's attached to Order 44 that goes to Review Commission. Generally speaking, no. The mayor and the council are in control of the city. The Review Commission is governance as opposed to management. There are requirements under the state funding that if certain actions are taken, contracting, things along those lines, they be brought before the commission, but essentially the city makes substantial decisions regarding its budget going forward.
So they would have no authority unless it fell into those criteria?
Unless it fell in those areas.
Right. I believe 436 allows an amended budget with the approval of the treasurer, and I'm sure the treasurer is going to require the Financial Review Commission as well. Right. Valerie, am I right on that? Yeah. All right, thank you. All right.
All right. Good morning. Vicki Thomas, WWJ CBS Radio, for the mayor and for Kevin. Mr. Mayor, first of all, the $1.7 billion to improve city services and eliminate blight. Tell Detroiters how soon they'll see that money in action. How will it be dispersed and over what period of time? And for Kevin, what is the status of the consulting fees, the mediation?
There's no check for $1.7 billion. What the plan of adjustment says over 10 years is if the city hits all of its budget targets and we successfully raise revenues in multiple areas and we successfully cut costs in multiple areas, over 10 years, there would be $1.7 billion in new services. And so basically, it's money that we're going to have to earn as we produce. And so people are already seeing it. They started to see it last year when we cut the vacant lots across the city for the first time in 4 years, where we reopened the parks. We've added police officers, we've added firefighters. People are seeing it every day. So it's not like something is going to change tomorrow, but we have a very clear plan of adjustment. It's a roadmap. It'll get adjusted as we progress, but it's a framework that says if we execute really well, we'll be able to provide the kind of services that people in a city our size expect. And Kevin, I think the other part was yours.
Sure. Vicki, the mediation has reconvened today. Some of them were resolved last week. There are others that are still there. Since I am under the mediation order, the August 23rd, 2013 mediation order and others that have been issued, I think that's about all I can say right now.
But it does not obviously affect any of what's happening.
No, the mediations don't affect this. You remember in the plan there was a professional fee reserve that was in the plan. So it's going to have no impact on all this process.
Good morning, Erica Erickson from Fox 2 News. Kind of a piggyback on what she was just talking about. This one more directed to you, Mayor Duggan. I know that you focus on blight and our decaying infrastructure and getting into the neighborhoods, our 911 dispatch, all those types of things. What are some of the things that you personally want to immediately work on specifically? And also, how does it feel, Kevin Orr stepping down and you finally having control?
Well, it's not as sudden as it appears to you. Alexis Wiley kicked him out of his office and moved in 3 weeks ago. So we've had a more gradual transition. But in all seriousness, for all practical purposes, I've had responsibility for the day-to-day management of the city for several months. And the emergency manager and I evolved to a point where we were working effectively together. So my schedule's not going to be any different tomorrow than it was yesterday, other than the fact I don't have any lawyers bringing bankruptcy motions for me to deal with, which was chewing up a huge amount of our time and energy. But the public's going to continue to see what they've been seeing, which is we got a lot of work to do, and we're trying to make services a little better every month, and I think most people in Detroit feel that we are.
What would you want Detroiters to know? What is it that you truly care about and you want them to know that you are working on it?
Yeah, I think Detroiters understand what I care about and what I'm working on, and spending a lot of time in neighborhood meetings. I got to hang out with several hundred Detroiters on Saturday at the side lot fairs, which is one of the greatest experiences I've had. But you had people lined up down the block. All they wanted to do was buy the lot next to their house for $100, and nobody in the city bureaucracy had ever told them. And every property the land bank owned, they walked out with a deed that day. In many cases, they've been years trying to get it. In other cases, the land bank didn't own the property. We were able to show them exactly who owned it, where it was in process, and the response I got from people saying, people in city government actually care about me and are figuring out how to do this. I think people are going to see more and more of that. I think most people in the city feel that today.
Sandra Swoboda from WDET Radio. There have been many financial restructuring consultants involved in the bankruptcy process. Could you explain who's staying on, in what capacity, and at what expense?
You know? I can explain. Ultimately, as of 12:01 a.m., that's going to be up to the mayor and the council who stays on to assist the city. There may be some in the accounting space and some that work their way out of a job in the restructuring space, as well as some of the attorneys who eventually will roll off as the case draws to a close. But as far as subsequent retention, that'll be up to the mayor and council.
Yeah, we've got, I know in the finance department, you have to go department by department, but the answer is they're going to be dramatically reduced. They've already been dramatically reduced. In the finance department, I know we've got Ernst & Young continuing to play some roles in cash management and the like, and we also have Conway McKenzie continuing to play a role as John Hill, the CFO, brings in our full-time employees to exercise those responsibilities. I think Jones Day has got some involvement in labor negotiations that's being phased out. Beyond that, I think there's very little in the way of consultants, but all of the consultants are being phased out pretty quickly.
Shannon Jones with the World Socialist website. This is for either the mayor or the governor. You called this press conference today to celebrate returning Detroit to self-rule. But isn't it a fact that the city is going to be under the control of a state-appointed financial review board that can review all budgetary decisions, void contracts, void labor agreements? I mean, what is democratic about this process?
So I lobbied very heavily for the Financial Review Commission legislation, as did all 9 members of the City Council. We went up and testified together. We're very comfortable with the Financial Review Commission. It does not affect the day-to-day operations of city government. What the Financial Review Commission does do is meet monthly to make sure that the budgets that we presented, that we are honestly raising the revenues we projected, that we are honestly managing the expenses in line with what we said. Collective bargaining agreements have almost entirely been signed up for 5-year contracts under the emergency manager process, so there'll be very few collective bargaining agreements go there. And major contracts are going to be reviewed by the Financial Review Commission. We're going to demonstrate to them that they were bid in open competitive process and were awarded to low bids. I'm very comfortable with that process. If you've been at the first couple of meetings, they've been very professional. But I feel comfortable with the Financial Review Commission's role. I don't know if the governor wants to add to that.
I think you said it well, Mike. The city's running the city with some financial oversight on budgetary matters. And in fact, I hope the mayor and the city council leverage the Financial Review Commission as a resource. Again, it's more expertise that's available to help if they have questions, ideas. They're a very bright group of people. And so my goal is to have them probably be as least active as possible. They have fiduciary responsibilities. They need to do that on budgetary matters. But beyond that, I hope they can be used in a positive construct, and it's great to have the mayor on the commission itself, along with the city council having representation.
So
Isn't the budget the decisive issue?
I'm sorry?
Isn't the budget the decisive issue?
Again, the budget has been set. In the event that we are taking in less revenue and we have to cut the budget, we're taking in more revenue and we want to adjust the budget. To the extent we're managing our expenses, there is a process by which the city council can adjust it, and then we'll get the approval of the state treasurer in the first 2 years, and then after that, the Financial Review Commission. But I feel very comfortable that if I cannot make the business case for why the budget should be adjusted, that's on me. But the members of the media who have been at the first 2 Financial Review Commissions, I think, have been disappointed at how little drama there is. It is a professional, a well-run commission. It's my job to make the case for the financial changes I want to make. If I make the case well, they'll approve it. If I make the case poorly, they won't, and I can't ask for anything other than that.
Rick Pluto with Michigan Public Radio, and I'm going to press my luck with 2 questions for Governor Snyder. And that is, what have you learned from what's happened here in Detroit that you could apply to, that you will apply to other financially distressed cities? And just very quickly also, do you stand by your position that bankruptcy is not an option for other cities?
Well, bankruptcy is a very last resort. So no one should be planning to say, I want to go into bankruptcy again. And this was a truly unique situation. So no one should draw precedence from this with respect to other communities in Michigan or other entities. Everyone's unique in that regard. With respect to the whole process, what I hope people can learn from is that's the importance of partnership. This was absolutely incredible. If you look through this entire process, the final bankruptcy, one of the reasons we're able to exit in this fashion, again, the judge, the mediators, but we had every major creditor agree to the plan, which I think is a tremendous statement about how hard people work together. The mayor, the emergency manager, so many different people from our team work together to make all this happen. And the foundation community, the grand bargain. And again, I want to recognize the retirees who are taking some cuts through this. That shouldn't be forgotten. This was because people worked together. We had a unique outcome that is very positive in a very, very difficult situation. But people did make sacrifices. So don't plan on bankruptcy as part of your planning process. But this was a great case to show when you work together, you can solve many problems. And again, that's what I'm hoping to see. We've had exits in other communities without bankruptcy. Benton Harbor and Pontiac were successful cases. We're currently in the process of looking at exiting Flint over the next few months. So again, we're seeing success by the whole emergency manager process and by bringing people together to work together.
Governor Snyder, this is Jacob with MERS News. Now that the city of Detroit is out of bankruptcy, what is next for the other large government entity in this area, which is Detroit Public Schools? And for you or the mayor, is Mayor Duggan taking authority in the schools part of this plan?
Well, again, that's the mayor would have to propose something like that. What I would say is Detroit Public Schools is a situation where, in my view, we've been there too long with an emergency manager. It goes back to my predecessor. So this is a case where emergency managers have not been as effective as they have been in municipalities. One of the things that's a key concern now that the city in particular is growing again and we're seeing success at the city government level is we need to start working hard on having success with the schools of Detroit. And I'm speaking to all the educational institutions in the city of Detroit. We need better outcomes for the kids in the city. And so I'm committed to working on that in partnership. And when I say partnership, that's in partnership with the community. That includes the broader community, the foundation community, the mayor, the city council. And I hope we'll have good discussions and healthy discussions going into next year and beyond about how we can improve the schools of Detroit.
I will not be operating the Detroit Public Schools. There is no discussion, no contemplation. I've got a huge amount to do in executing this plan of adjustment. But we have 3 dysfunctional school systems in the city today: the Detroit Public Schools, the EAA, and the charters. And interestingly, the charter schools are not performing on the whole any better on the scores than the public schools. I think there is a need for a central accrediting body that authorizes schools in the city, where they open, where they close, and how people are moved. And at some point, whether I get involved in that, we're going to see Tanya Allen and the Skillman Foundation are leading a review of that. But whatever comes out of it, it will not involve me running the Detroit Public Schools.
All right, thanks. We're getting close to running out of time, so we're going to have Nathan from the Detroit Free Press, and I think one other question on this side here.
Just for Kevin, real quick, you know, I know that at the beginning of the bankruptcy, or at the beginning of your job as emergency manager, you severed your ties with Jones Day. Have you had any talks at all about going back there, or from a career perspective, what are you thinking is your next step?
I've made no decision. I haven't had any talks, and I've made no decision about what next steps are. I think what I need to do is just finish this job and then take a little time to decompress, and then hopefully in the new year I'll turn my attention to that.
Just one final question regarding the State Financial Review Commission. Gabe brought up the point that is it in place for 13 years, or are there things that the city can do with balanced budgets that ends that term or tenure sooner?
So there are 2 elements in the Financial Review Commission Act. There's a control period and there's a non-control period. During the control period, the Financial Review Commission approves our budgets, approves contracts over $750,000, approves collective bargaining agreements. As Councilman Leland indicated, the statute provides that if we balance our budget for 3 straight years, pay our bills on time, and manage in a way that we have access to the credit markets, we then move to the non-control period, in which case we don't have to bring each of these decisions back. The Financial Review Commission, however, will remain in place for another 10 years. And they will, for example, look at our revenue estimates. They'll look at the financials at the end of the year. And if we were, as I certainly expect us to do, run 3 straight balanced budgets and get out of the control period, if in year 5 we ran a deficit, all of the Financial Review Commission controls kick back in, and you start the 3-year process all over again. If we balance the budget for 3 straight years, we get out of the control period. If we balance it for another 10 years, the Review Commission goes away entirely. And so what my goal in the next 3 years is to move from the control period to the non-control period.
Thanks, and Vicki, you're going to be our last question.
Thank you, Vicki Thomas, WWJ. Kevin, you were at that last Financial Review Commission meeting. You heard from all the mayors, executives, and their plans for the city. Can you tell me your thoughts on the people that the mayors put in place in terms of leading the city, and any ones that you might want to highlight who are part of that?
Yeah, my view is, and I've said this before, I think the mayor and the people on the executive side are the A-team for the city. These are people who have proven themselves in other environments, whether it's Chief Craig, who's building right now, coming from Cincinnati, Portland, others, and the statistics that are going down, whether it's John Hill, who was the first executive director for the D.C. Control Board, which had a 4-year period for it to provide a balanced budget before it could get out of oversight. Whether it's Beth Nyblock, who the mayor convinced to come up from Louisville to work with the city, was Edsel Jenkins, who came out of retirement, go back over to the fire department. You have people, Gary Brown, I don't mean to exclude anyone at any level, but you have people in the city right now who have proven their mettle in other environments and have had successes under their belt that are now working for the city. And as was said here today, you're seeing a level of professionalism without drama on both the executive side and legislative side. I have a very high degree of confidence in the people over at City Hall and their professionalism right now. They're very impressive, and I suspect they're going to do a very good job.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Orr, Governor, Mr. Mayor, and Council President. Thank you all for coming. Thanks.